I'll use the linear pattern feature for the mobile case model. This time, I want to duplicate several features on the camera cutouts, speaker cutouts, button cover, top cutouts, and also the finger grooves. I'll start with the features on the speaker cutouts area. To make it clearer, I'll zoom in on this portion. In the Features tab, I select Linear Pattern. Then, in the Property Manager, under Pattern Direction for Direction 1, I select the edge along the Z-axis, specifically, this edge here. Next, under Features to Pattern, I select Cut Extrude 7 to duplicate. Now, a yellow preview appears along with a Direction 1 box in the Graphics area. To see it more clearly, I switch to the right view and zoom in again. I want to copy Cut Extrude 7 into the area of Cut Extrude 6. For the distance between the copies, I adjust it in the spacing field. I enter 0.8 millimeters, which is the width of the slot. The preview shows that the copies are touching each other because there's no gap yet. So I add +1, making the total 1.8 millimeters for spacing. Then I increase the number of instances until it reaches the other end. The result is 9 instances. Now, what if I want the pattern to vary? For example, the cutouts gradually increase in size from left to right. For that, we can use the Instances to Vary option. I scroll down in the Property Manager, and here I find the Instances to Vary option. This feature allows us to change the size and position of each instance. I enable it by checking the box. After that, additional settings appear in the Direction 1 box, along with the signs in the preview. Now I'll try varying the dimensions. First, I make sure the Choose Feature Dimension to Vary field is highlighted. To change the slot width, I select its width dimension. Then, to change the height, I select its height dimension. The selected dimensions automatically appear in the list and also in the Direction 1 box. Next, I enter the increment values. For the width, I double-click and enter 0.2 millimeters. For the height, I also enter 0.2 millimeters. Then I click OK to see the result. It's still not quite right, so I'll check it first. The second instance has a height of 1 millimeter and a width of 1 millimeter. In the third instance, the height increased to 1.2 millimeters. The width also to 1.2 millimeters, and so on, each increasing by 0.2 millimeters. So the sizes are correct. They gradually increase from left to right. Now let's check the spacing. The distance from the first to the second instance is 1 millimeter. Then to the third, it becomes 0.8 millimeters. And to the fourth, 0.6 millimeters. So the spacing decreases by 0.2 millimeters each copy. To make the spacing consistent, I need to add a spacing increment of 0.2 millimeters. I go to Edit Feature. Then in the Direction 1 Spacing Increment field, I enter 0.2 millimeters. I reduce the number of instances to 7 and then click OK. Now the result looks much better. The spacing between each instance is now consistent at 1 millimeter. The distance from the left edge to the first instance is 0.6 millimeters, and from the right edge to the last instance is also 0.6 millimeters. Next, let's move the view to the other side. In the Features tab, I'll select Linear Pattern again. For the pattern direction, I'll choose this edge. Then, under Features to Pattern, I'll slightly rotate the view and select Cut Extrude 8. If you want to go back to the previous view, simply click Previous View. Now for the spacing, I'll enter 2 millimeters, which is the width of the slot. To add some gap between the copies, I'll add +1 millimeter, so the total spacing is 3 millimeters. Then I'll set the number of instances to 7. This time, I want to make a variation where the size gradually decreases from left to right. To do that, I'll scroll down in the Property Manager and enable the Instances to Vary option. To control the size variation, I'll select the width dimension of the slot and also the height dimension. Since I want the size to get smaller, I need to reduce the dimension values. So I'll double-click the width increment column and enter -0.2 millimeters. I'll do the same for the height, entering -0.2 millimeters as well. To keep the spacing between each instance consistent, I'll set the direction 1 spacing increment to -0.2 millimeters. Once everything is set, I'll click OK to complete the operation. Now I'll adjust the view to check the result on the speaker cutouts area. Next, in the Feature Manager, I'll organize it a bit by moving Linear Pattern 1 and Linear Pattern 2 into the Speaker Cutouts folder. I'll change the view to isometric so we can see the model as a whole. Next, I'm going to duplicate the features on the finger grooves area. In the Features tab, I'll select Linear Pattern. This time, the duplication direction follows the x-axis, so for pattern direction, I'll choose this edge. Then, under Features to Pattern, I'll select Cut Extrude 13. To make the preview clearer, I'll switch the view to Top View. Now let's set the distance between each copy. For spacing, I'll enter 12 millimeters, which is the width of the groove. Then I'll add another +10 millimeters, making the total spacing 22 millimeters. For the number of instances, I'll set it to 4. I also want to add some variation to the pattern, so I'll check the Instances to Vary option. Next, I'll select the groove width dimension to vary. I'll set the increment to 3 millimeters for each instance, so I'll enter 3 millimeters here. Then for the direction 1 spacing increment, I'll enter 1 millimeter. After that, I'll click OK to see the result. Now let's check. The width of the first instance is 12 millimeters. The second instance is 15 millimeters. The third is 18 millimeters. And the fourth is 21 millimeters. So each instance increases by 3 millimeters, just as I said earlier. Next, let's check the spacing. The distance from instance 1 to 2 is 10 millimeters, from 2 to 3 is 8 millimeters, and from 3 to 4 is 6 millimeters. That means the spacing decreases by 2 millimeters each copy, even though I entered a +1 millimeter increment earlier. This happens to balance the increasing width of each instance. So the purpose is indeed to create a gradual reduction in spacing by 2 millimeters. All right, now what if I want to modify only a specific instance? For example, the 4th instance. Here's how to do that. I'll go back to Edit feature first. On the 4th instance, I'll click the sign that appears. You'll see several options: Skip Instance, Modify Instance, and Customize Menu. If I click Customize Menu, I can check or uncheck Skip Instance and Modify Instance options. When checked, these options will appear when the icon is clicked. If unchecked, they'll be hidden. I'll turn them back on by checking them again. Now I'll click the icon on the 4th instance and choose Skip Instance. The 4th instance disappears. To bring it back, click the icon again and select Unskip Instance. Next, let's try another option: Modify Instance. Here, I can change both the dimension and the spacing of that particular instance. For example, I'll change the width to 14 millimeters. Previously, the spacing to the 3rd instance was 6 millimeters, so I'll change it to 5 millimeters instead. That means the overall distance value changes from 69 millimeters to 68 millimeters. I'll click OK. And now the fourth instance has a width of 14 millimeters and a spacing of 5 millimeters from the third instance. All right, now I'll switch the view to isometric. I want to add a fillet to the edges of the groove. In the Features tab, I'll select Fillet. I'll set the radius to 2 millimeters, then select the groove faces. Click OK to complete the operation. In the Feature Manager, I'll organize it neatly by moving Linear Pattern 3 and Fillet 15 into the Finger Grooves folder. Next, I'm going to duplicate the features on the button cover area. I'll switch the view to Front View, then zoom in on the button cover area. In the Features tab, I'll select Linear Pattern. In the Property Manager for pattern direction, I'll choose this edge. Here, the direction arrow is pointing to the right, but I want it to go to the left. So I'll click Reverse Direction to flip it. Then, under Features to Pattern, I'll select Boss Extrude 7 and Fillet 12. A yellow preview along with the Direction 1 box now appears in the graphics area. Now let's set the spacing. I'll enter 2 right arc radius, plus 10 slot length, plus 2 left arc radius, plus 3.5 gap between instances. Then subtract minus 2.5, half of the slot length reduction I'll vary later. So the total spacing is 15 millimeters. Next, I'll set the number of instances to 3. Then I'll scroll down in the Property Manager and check the Instances to Vary option to add variation to the pattern. Make sure the Choose Feature Dimension to Vary in Direction 1 field is highlighted. Then I'll select the slot length dimension. For the variation, I'll enter an increment value of minus 5 millimeters, so the slot length decreases by 5 millimeters each copy. Next, for the third instance, I'll click the sign in the preview and select Modify Instance. Here, I'll change the slot length to 5 millimeters. For the spacing, I'll reduce it by 2.5 millimeters, half of the reduction from the second instance, and then reduce it again by another 2.5 millimeters, half of the reduction from the third instance. So the spacing for the third instance is 25 millimeters. After everything is set, I'll click OK to complete the operation. Now I'll rotate the view to check the result. All right, I'll switch the view to isometric. In the Feature Manager, I'll organize the tree by moving Linear Pattern 4 into the button cover folder. Next, I'm going to duplicate the features in the Camera Cutouts area. I'll zoom in on the Camera Cutouts area. Here, I want to duplicate Cut Extrude 4 so that there are 3 camera cutouts. In the Features tab, I'll select Linear Pattern. In the Property Manager for pattern direction, I'll choose this edge. Then, under Features to Pattern, I'll select Cut Extrude 4. A yellow preview with a Direction 1 box now appears in the graphics area. To make it clearer, I'll switch the view to Top View and zoom in a bit more. Right now, the direction arrow is pointing to the right, but I want it to go to the left. So, I'll click Reverse Direction to flip it. I want the 2 new cutouts to be centered inside the circles from Boss Extrude 5 and to match the circle edges in size. So first, I need to check their distance and diameter. I'll go to the Evaluate tab and choose Measure. Then I'll click the edge of Cut Extrude 4 and the circular face of Boss Extrude 5. The distance is 10 millimeters. I'll measure the other circle. It's also 10 millimeters apart. Then I'll click its edge to measure the diameter. It's 8 millimeters. The other circle has the same diameter, 8 millimeters as well. All right, so here, I'll keep the spacing at 10 millimeters and set the number of instances to 3. Next, I'll scroll down in the Property Manager and check the Instances to Vary option. Make sure the Choose Feature Dimension to Vary in Direction 1 field is highlighted. Then I'll select the Circle Diameter dimension. Earlier, we saw that the circle edge diameter is 8 millimeters, while the duplicated cutout diameter is 5 millimeters. So, in the Increment field, I'll enter 3 millimeters for the second instance. For the third instance, I'll click the sign in the preview and select Modify Instance. By default, its diameter becomes 11 millimeters because of the increment, but I'll change it to 8 millimeters so it matches the circle. The spacing to the third instance is already correct, 20 millimeters. Once everything looks good, I'll click OK to complete the operation. Then I'll rotate the view to check the result. All right, now I'll switch the view to isometric. In the Feature Manager, I'll tidy things up by moving Linear Pattern 5 into the Camera Cutouts folder. Finally, I'm going to duplicate the features in the top cutouts area. I'll rotate the view and zoom in on the top cutout area. Here, I'll duplicate Cut Extrude 10 and Fillet 13 to the left side, creating 3 cutouts with different sizes. In the Features tab, I'll select Linear Pattern again. In the Property Manager for Pattern Direction, I'll select this edge. Then, under Features to Pattern, I'll click Cut Extrude 10 and Fillet 13. A yellow preview along with the Direction 1 box now appears in the Graphics area. I'll switch the view to the left side, then click Reverse Direction to flip the arrow. For spacing, I'll enter 3 millimeters, the circle diameter, plus 4 millimeters, the distance between instances, which gives a total spacing of 7 millimeters. I'll leave the number of instances at 3. Next, I'll enable Instances to Vary. Make sure the Choose Feature Dimensions to Vary in Direction 1 field is highlighted. Then I'll select the Circle Diameter dimension. I'll enter an increment of 3 millimeters for the second instance. For the third instance, I'll click the sign in the preview and choose Modify Instance. I'll change the diameter to 4 millimeters. Then, for the spacing, I'll enter 7 between instance 1 and 2, plus 10 between instance 2 and 3. So the total spacing to the third instance is 17 millimeters. Once everything looks good, I'll click OK and rotate the view to check the result. All right, now I'll switch the view to isometric, and in the Feature Manager, I'll tidy things up by moving Linear Pattern 6 into the Top Cutouts folder. Now, I want to create a copy of the body so I can see both the top and bottom view of the model at the same time. In the Search Commands box, I type Copy, then select Move/Copy Bodies. I click on the model, and here I make sure that Copy is checked. I rotate the model a bit. We can see that some numbers in the Property Manager under Rotate are changing. In that field, I enter 180 degrees. Then I click OK. Next, in the Search Commands box, I select Move Copy Bodies again. I click on the copied body that was rotated earlier, and this time I uncheck Copy. Then I move the model slightly. We'll notice the numbers in the Property Manager under Translate are changing as well. In that field, I enter 95 millimeters to move it. Then I click OK to finish. Now I click Zoom to fit, then zoom in again. In the display style, I switch to Shaded. All right, don't forget to click Save.